Okay, hello everyone. So today we're going to talk about two separate things. The first is we'll figure out how to export plots into PDF files, which can then be loaded up into presentations or Word documents. And then we'll learn how to use RMarkdown, which is R's version of writing documents from beginning to end with all of the writing and code and plots that can then be outputted to a HTML or PDF, or even if you have to, a Word document, so that you can do everything within R, which of course is great. And then after that, we'll talk about some more advanced programming using for loops and things like that. So first let's talk about exporting plots. So when you create a plot in R, so for example, if I do hist of chick weight, then the plot is just going to show up in the little plotting window here. Now, we frequently will want to put this file in, or this plot into some other document. And right now it's not so easy to do that. So what we need to do is use the PDF command. And what this will do is it will output whatever our plot is to a PDF. So the best way to do this is first start by setting the working directory, so the directory that you want the plot to go to. I just hit tab, that's how dir came up. So first I'll just put it on my desktop. On this, okay. And then we'll use the PDF command. And the first thing you have to specify in the PDF is the file name. And so I'm just going to call it chick weight histogram. And then always add the .pdf. And then there's many other things you can add, but the two most important things are the width and the height, which is just the width and the height of the actual plot. So I'll just say width equals 5, height equals 5, and this is in inches. I think it defaults to inches. There's probably a way to change it to centimeters, but I'm not quite sure how. So when you run this command, it's going to open up a PDF environment, but it's all going to be behind the scenes, so you won't see it. So when you run this, you'll see that R didn't really do anything. But what it actually did do, if I go to my desktop, is I can see, now if I can sort, that it already created this PDF. But if I try to open it, it won't work because I haven't put anything into the PDF yet. R has just started the process of creating it. And then if I write hist, or if I run this histogram, then it will put this histogram into the PDF, but before I can look at it, I always need to turn off the PDF. And you do that by doing dev.off with two open parentheses. And if I run this, then I should see some output here in the console. So it says Rstudio GD2. I have no idea what that means, but that just means that it's done creating the plot. So now if I go back to my desktop, I can see chick weight histogram, and if I double click that, then I can see, my sister's here. How's it going, Beck?
Kein Problem.
Kein Problem, yes. I'm teaching my sister very good German. Okay, so...
Prost.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so here's our histogram, and it's in a PDF, which, yeah, of course, any changes you want to make to the histogram, you do that in the code. This isn't the nicest looking histogram. And let me go back to R. Yep, and that's pretty much it. So then if you have a Word document that you then want to load your histogram into, you just go to Word and say import PDF and select the PDF and import it in. Or likewise with a PowerPoint presentation or something like that. Okay, so that is how to output your plots to PDF. And you're going to be using this a lot whenever you're creating R plots, because you don't want to just look at them here. You want to put them into a document. The main things to keep in mind are just, it's probably good to set the working directory beforehand so you know where this PDF is going to go. If you don't specify the working directory beforehand, then you don't know where it's going to put the file. So just make sure you know where it's going. You can also specify where to put it here. So I could have done users Nathaniel desktop, and this should work too. Yeah, and I can just run that again. Yep, so that's how to create PDFs from your plots. The next thing I want to talk about is how to create documents pretty much from beginning to end in R. And the way we're going to do that is by using what's called an RMarkdown. You may have seen this mentioned in the homework in the past, but I never got enough time to show you guys how to do it. But finally, we're going to do this. So the way you create a new RMarkdown is by going to new file, but now instead of selecting an R script, we select RMarkdown. One other thing I should mention, well, first let's just open this. So I'll just say my first RMarkdown. And you'll see there's 3 different output formats for a Markdown. You can write it into an HTML file, which then of course can easily go on the web, into a PDF file, which is my preference that you guys do, and then as a Word file. So if you have to do it into Word, you can do it, but it doesn't look so nice. It's better to use PDF or HTML. The one thing about PDF files is that you have to download and install a text package, which is what's used for creating LaTeX documents. And on Windows, this is called, or the version you would want is MikTeX, and for Windows or for Mac, you want MacTeX. So what you'll have to do if you want to write to PDF files is Google MikTeX if you're on Windows or MacTeX if you're on OS X, and download the package. Now the package is really big. It's like 2.5 gigabytes on Mac, so it's going to take a little bit to download and then to install. But once you do that, then you can create PDFs, which look really nice. I think because most of you, or I'll switch back and forth between HTML and PDF. Then I hit OK, and here's how the Markdown document looks. One other thing, you need to install the RMarkdown package before this will work. On the computers in the lab, I've already installed it, but I think it's just, the package is just called Markdown, yeah. So if you haven't already installed Markdown, you'll need to run install packages Markdown, which it's just going to reinstall it. This was probably a bad idea. Oh, it didn't take long. Okay. And then once you download it, you need to make sure you load it. So, or actually it might load it by default. No, it doesn't. Okay. So you need to either type library Markdown or scroll down to the packages and click it. Okay. So this is the coding environment for R Markdown. Now you'll notice this looks quite a bit different from our typical R scripts. The main thing is that you'll notice this is not proper R code here. So you can't just start a R script by saying title and colon my first R Markdown. If I copy this into an R script and try to run this, it's going to freak out because it doesn't know what title colon means. But R Markdown is really just a different language for writing documents. But as you can see, you can embed R code into an R Markdown document. So this is how you're going to combine both your text for telling the reader whatever it is you want them to know about your analysis, and then you can encode these. These are called chunks in R. So when you create a new R Markdown document, it's already going to pre-populate it with this little sample document. And just to see what this looks like, we can already run this sample one. So you'll notice there's 3 options, either knit HTML, knit PDF, or knit Word. Knit is just a verb that's used for creating the documents. Don't ask me where it comes from. So I'm going to start by just knitting PDF. If you haven't downloaded MacTeX, this won't work yet, but I'll show you Word in a second. So I'll just go ahead and run this already, and it's going to generate a bunch of gobbledygook here that you don't need to worry about. But then it opens up the PDF in preview on my Mac. And you can see that this is a very nice looking, clean, modern document, and it puts the title at the top. So I titled it My First R Markdown. my name and the date, and then here's our text. And then you'll see that after the text, it shows what looks like and what is proper R code and our output. And it automatically puts in the page numbers and things like this. So really, I think this is the nicest way to be presenting your analyses from R, is to do it within an R Markdown. Or if you're familiar using LaTeX, there's also a version, well, yeah, a way to write LaTeX code in R, and that's called Sweave. And if you're familiar with LaTeX, you can use that, and it works very similarly to R Markdown. But if not, if you're not familiar with LaTeX, just use R Markdown. It's quite a bit easier. So as you'll see here in the document, there's the regular text, or there's the title first, then the text, and then these are the results from our chunks from before. So in the chunk, one of the chunks, I wrote a summary of this cars data set, and then there was some more text, and then here's the plots, which we'll just put them directly in, and it all looks very nice. So let's go back to Rstudio, and I can, yeah, so it automatically puts the date in as the current date. The output, you can specify PDF, HTML, or doc, I think. So if I change this here, you'll notice that it's just changing the output. Oh, and it reopened this, so I don't want to look at this right now. So yeah, so that's where you change where the output's going to be. Just to show you what Word looks like, let me change this to Word. So the output is Word document, and then it spits it out into an R document. This really, to me, doesn't look so nice. It's better, or I think it's better to, if you have to make a Word document, to do it using Markdown and spit it out than to copy and paste everything yourself. But even this plot looks a bit fuzzy to me, and that's not so nice. So, but anyway. So, how do our Markdown documents work? So first, if you just write text, then it'll output as text. Or we saw before that one of the links in the R Markdown document, if I go back to it, or let's run it again, it actually creates a clickable HTML link here. And the way that we created that in the Markdown document was using this syntax of a less than sign and then a greater than sign. So let me just delete all this. And if I want to say, okay, this is an analysis of the chick weight dataset in R. And of course, you can write whatever you want here. So what do we want to do? Let's say, first, let's create a histogram of the chicken weights. I'm going to put a colon here. Now this is the first R chunk here, and this is the way to tell R Markdown that you're switching from Markdown code to R code. And you'll see you do that by typing 3 of these, gosh, I don't know what these are called. I'm going to call them arrows, even though I'm sure that's not the right name. So 3 arrows, bracket R bracket, put in your R code, and then you close it by arrow, arrow, arrow. And you'll see that in Markdown it blocks out the R code in gray. If you don't want to always type these arrows in the R, you can also, within Rstudio, click at chunks here, and then say insert chunk, and that'll automatically create this. So let's go ahead and delete this. And now I'm going to put in my histogram. I don't know why I just said histogram. Should just be histogram. Chick weight. And I'm going to run just this code right here as I'm creating the document just to make sure it looks like what I want. So first, yeah, I already see I made a mistake. I typed histogram. It should just be hist. You guys probably knew that. Yeah, so that looks okay. Oh, maybe I want to change the main to data equals chick weight and x label equals weight. And let me run this just to make sure I like how it looks. Oh gosh, let's change the color just to have fun. Color to red. And if I run this, doesn't look, we'll leave it. So Now to see how this is looking, I can knit it to PDF. Let's see how the file's going. And here we go. So you can see, yep, here's all the updates I made. And what's nice about RMarkdown is it lets you also output your R code. So anytime you look at your document later, you can know exactly what code it was that created your next analyses, or your histogram in this case. Yeah, so there's our histogram, looks nice, and there's the other stuff that was there too. So let's close this and go back. What else can you do? So you can create these large chunks. Oh, one other thing. There's a lot of different options for when you're writing this code for what you want the RMarkdown to output. So for example, you'll remember that in the PDF that it included this code for histogram, but which is nice if you want to remember exactly what code created a plot or some analyses. But sometimes you might not want to include that. You just want the output. And the way you can tell RMarkdown to not include the code is to say echo equals false. Echo means do you want to echo the R code in the final document? So if I say echo equals false and I go back to knit PDF, then you'll see that now it jumps straight to the histogram and it doesn't include the R code. But of course, if I go back to this, then when I open the RMarkdown document, I always have the R code that I can look back at, but now it just won't print it out into the document. And if you run other R code here, let's say I wrote mean chick weight, and let's turn echo into true. And if I run this, then it didn't like that. What did I do wrong? Ah, forgot the parentheses. Let's run this again. Hopefully this works. Yeah, that looks better. So you'll notice here it created the histogram and then it went to my next command and it spits out the results. But this probably isn't the nicest way to include, for example, the mean weight into your document. There's got to be a nicer way to do this. And the way we do that is by replacing or not including small analyses in the big chunks, but instead we want to put it directly into our document. So for example, we can write, my instructor wants me to type the mean chicken weight. Why are we always using this data set? I am dreaming about chickens. Okay, can't answer that question. I just like the chicken weight data set. If someone has a new one for me, well, we can use it. Okay, but to make him happy, I will say that the mean chicken weight is, now what I can't do here is say mean chick weight. That's what we want to do. But the problem is that RMarkdown still is looking at this as RMarkdown syntax. It doesn't see it as R code yet. And the way we need to tell it that it's R code is by, again, using the arrow R, space, then type your R code, and 3 arrows to close it. So this is a way of incorporating, I don't know if you call this part here a chunk. Maybe I'll call it a mini chunk. So this is a full chunk where you don't incorporate text into it, and a mini chunk is one where you want to embed the R code, like for example within a sentence. So I'll type a period here, and let me delete this stuff here. So now if I run this, hopefully I didn't make any mistakes, it looks okay. And whoa, okay, I made some syntax error again, but you'll see that what it has done is it's immediately put the data into the document, but we don't want all that data, so what did I do wrong? I just called chick weight weight. I didn't call it, say, to give me the mean. That was stupid. Okay, but you'll see, even when you've been working with R for oh gosh, how long have I been using this? 7 years now. You always make these types of mistakes. It's just you can't avoid it. So don't feel bad if you make mistakes like me. So all right. So now I changed it to put in the mean, and now it looks better. So to make them happy, I will say that the mean chicken weight is mean 1218183. This still isn't quite what I want. So first off, I don't need to write mean there. Mean chicken weight. And I typed 3 here. I only need 1 arrow for these mini chunks. And the other thing that I didn't like so much was it was putting all those decimal places. So let's round the result to, I don't know, 2 decimal places. And then let's also say, just to add more code, the median chicken weight is our median, or let's round it, round median chick weight 2 and close arrow. This, and then I'll write, oh gosh, what else? The standard deviation is arrow R, SD, or round, SD, chick weight 2, and close arrow. Okay, now let's go ahead and knit that. And here's our result. So this is all looking good. To make them happy, I'll say the mean chicken weight is 121.82. Just add more code. The median is 103. Standard deviation is 71.07. Okay, and what's really great about this versus R, or versus using a Word document, is to get these results to an R doc or a Word document, I would have to write mean chick weight, and I'd have to run this. Look in the console. Okay, then I'd have to remember it's 121.81. Open up Word, type that. I could make mistakes in typing it. I could misremember the results, or even worse, later on, I'll forget how I calculated those results. But if I keep this RMarkdown document, then I'll always know exactly how I calculated each analysis. And if I find some data that look wrong, so if I go back to this, and let's say the standard deviation here. In this case, it sounds okay, but what if the standard deviation said, 71,000? Then I would think, well, I must have made a calculation error. Then you can say, look back on your RMarkdown document and see exactly what error you made. And that's pretty much RMarkdown. There's other fancy things you can do. You can include headers and many other things. And the best way to figure out how to learn how to use RMarkdown is by looking at the RMarkdown cheat sheet, which I don't think I've handed it out in class yet, but I will when I get back. You can download this if you want right now at rmarkdown.rstudio.com, and you see some information about the syntax. So here's how you create headers in an RMarkdown, and here's how they look. If you want to create lists, here's how you do that. Yeah, how to embed code. That information is all here. And then here's some of the different options. So for example, we used the echo option. Echo equals false or true, depending on whether you want to display code along with the results. There's other things as well. If you want to change the figure height and width of a plot in the chunk, then you do that using the fig width, fig height command. So actually, let's go ahead and do that. So let's say I want the histogram to be much smaller. So, oh gosh, now I already forgot what the syntax was. Fig.width. So fig.width, let's make it, I don't know, 3 inches. Fig.height, and let's make it, I don't know, 6. And let's knit the PDF. And it changed, yeah, so this definitely doesn't look as nice. The default is much nicer, but if you do want to mess around with it, that's how you do it. Oh, what's also cool about how it writes the code is it color codes the different inputs to the functions. Ah, that's so cool. Ah, I love Markdown. Okay, so as I said, PDF is, I think, the nicest way to create documents, but if you want to do Word, you can. So let's do Word, and here's how it looks. But see how ugly this is? So the PDF, it put the histogram right there, but now in Word, it can't fit it in the first page, so it's putting it down here, and it's fuzzy. Ah, that's hideous. Okay, let's use PDFs. As I said, you can also do a HTML document. And if I knit HTML, then it will put, well, it'll create the HTML file into the working directory, but it will also let me just view it right here. And this is how it looks in HTML format. What's also cool is if you want to share your documents with other people, you can actually publish your HTML files to what's called RPubs, which is, as you can read here, a free service from Rstudio for sharing documents on the web. And yes, important, all documents published to RPubs are publicly visible. And you click publish, and then I think you have to briefly sign up or something. But then once it stores it on their server, then you can have all your documents, online. And if you want to share them with people, then you can just send people the link, and they can see your awesome R code and R analyses online. And that's pretty much the basics of R Markdown. You can get a lot fancier with it, I'm sure, but that's the basics. So important things to keep in mind. For the most part, you can type whatever you want, and it'll just be like typing a text file. When you want to include R code, you can either do a big chunk using this 3 arrow signs bracket R, or if you want to do a small one, it's just 1 arrow sign R and then a closing arrow. And that's how we create nice looking documents that include both the text and the analyses and the results into one document. How do I turn